And then Doug Ford is going to be known as the premier that was attacking Canadian jobs. Hey, everybody, and welcome back. Negotiating skills. It's a bit of luck, experience, and what you have to offer in a deal. It will determine if you're a good negotiator or not. Because you can have all the resources, all the cards, no experience in negotiating, and you can get the worst deal in the world. And you can have nothing to offer, no resources, and get the best deal in the world. So sometimes it's a bit of luck, and sometimes it's a bit of experience. And you also got to know with the experience on when to use the tools that you have in your toolbox. Now, let's talk about Doug Ford and his negotiating skills. He only has one tool in his toolbox, and it seems like his toolbox is to threaten to take product off the shelf of the LCBO whenever a manufacturer, US or whatever, is not playing by the rules or trying to hurt Canadians, especially Ontarians. When it came to taking the American-made alcohol off the shelves, that was a great negotiating tactic because you add up all of Canada, well, except Alberta and Saskatchewan now, that's reversed their course, but all of Canada standing behind that act to take all American-made liquor off the shelves until they hopefully would put pressure on the American government to reverse the tariffs. But you can't use that tactic every single time you're trying to negotiate a deal, or use it as a tactic when, for example, Crown Royal bottling plants being moved from Ontario, Amherstburg, to the US and also Quebec. So, as we all know, Doug Ford is threatening to remove Crown Royal from LCBO because they're closing a plant here in Ontario that is giving jobs for 200 people. I don't think he understands the consequences of this threat, and I'm going to explain more about it, but let's take a look at what Doug Ford had to say. Ontario Premier Doug Ford said he is prepared to pull Crown Royal off liquor store shelves in the province as a whiskey parent company plans for a plant closure. In August, Diageo, producers of Crown Royal, Don Julio, Captain Morgan, and Guinness, among other brands, announced it would end operations at its plant in Amherstburg, in southwestern Ontario, and shift bottling operations to the US and Quebec. So not all the jobs are going to the US, some are going to Quebec, but as a premier, he's still fighting for Ontario jobs and would like Ontario jobs to stay. That's fine, understandable. The company said the move is part of a global restructuring not related to US tariffs. We agreed to disagree on that one. Doug Ford goes on to say, who in their right mind, any business person with half a brain, would go after their largest customer in North America? Ford said in a news conference on Monday, Diageo, we do over $765 million, more than any other jurisdiction anywhere in the US or in Canada, and they want to close down a plant? That's a lot of money. But that's not just for Crown Royal, that's for all their products. Most recent data from the Liquor Control Board of Ontario, LCBO, lists Crown Royal as the second highest selling spirit between June 22nd and October 11th of 2025, only behind Smirnoff Vodka, another Diageo product. Diageo has been a frequent target of the premier since the announcement, with Ford even emptying a bottle of Crown Royal during a conference in September. I remember that. It sure took him a long time to empty that bottle, so it must have been a big bottle, but I remember that. Diageo is slated to close the Ontario site next month, affecting about 200 jobs. In November, the alcohol producer reached a shutdown agreement with Unifor for an enhanced severance package for the affected workers while looking for a new employer at the facility. So at least they came to an agreement with an enhanced severance package So hopefully help those 200 jobs. But to be honest, to find a new employer at the facility, to me, this sounds like a union busting where they're going to close down, get someone else, maybe under their logo or subsidiary, and then hire people back on that are non-union. We are pulling Crown Royal off the shelves as soon as the last person leaves that plant, and Diageo can deal with it, Ford said on Monday. And then we'll look at Smirnoff next. Okay. So this is my issue on this tactic, okay? All of Canada and all of Canadians, especially Ontarians, were on board with eliminating all American made alcohol from the shelves, and it's working because it's a lot of American distilleries, like for example, I believe it's Jim Beam, who are suspending their operations for 2026 because they got oversupplied. They got too much. So they're not going to distill anything in 2026. The thing is Canada is a big market, especially for alcohol from the States. But you have all of Canada that were on board for not accepting any more American-made liquor. Well, except for Alberta and Saskatchewan, because they reversed course after 3 months. That's another story, another issue. But again, Canadians were okay with that because there were no Canadian jobs affected on that. It wasn't hurting us. It was only hurting the Americans. And we wanted to feel a little bit of pain because we were feeling the pain on the illegal, unnecessary tariffs that Trump was putting on Canadian workers. So we're all behind that. With that same tactic for Diageo, it's not the same. And the reason why it's not the same is Crown Royal is Canadian made. It's not just the bottling plant here in Ontario for 200 jobs. You've got the distillery in Manitoba. You've got the corn, the rye, and all the ingredients that go into Crown Royal are sourced from Canada, from Manitoba and surrounding provinces. So let's pretend that they take the Crown Royal off the shelves and it starts to hurt Diageo. It's not only going to hurt them, but it's also going to hurt us Canadians. They're going to have to reduce the production of the distillery. They're going to not buy as much corn and rye from the Canadian farmers. So this is not a good tactic. Again, the 200 jobs, I understand, Ontario jobs, you got to fight for them. But not all those jobs are going to the U.S. Some of them are going to Quebec. Find another manufacturer to take over that facility. He's a good businessman. He should be able to find somebody. And now to threaten also Smirnoff? Again, the Smirnoff that's still on the LCBO shelves are Canadian maids from from Quebec. Again, Canadian jobs. So you're going to take out another product that's made by Canadians. We got a huge market. He says it's going to hurt, but it's not going to hurt just the company. It's also going to hurt us Canadians. It's not a good tactic. It's not going to work. Because if I was Diageo, you know what I would do? No problem. Because it's only Ontario that's taking it off the shelves. Not any other provinces, nowhere near in the States, because it's a good product in the States that sells a lot. Even though their sales have gone down for other reasons in the States, they still sell a lot. Doug Ford talks about $765 million. Again, it's not just Crown Royal. It's all the Diageo product. The U.S. is $1.8 billion, plus Europe and everything else, all those other markets. So we're a big market, but we're not a huge market. Not that I believe is going to hurt them in the long run, as opposed to more going to be hurting us Canadians with the manufacturing of those alcohols that are on the LCBO shelves as it is right now. The Canadians aren't going to like that when they start losing their job in Manitoba, when they start losing their job in Alberta. And then Doug Ford is going to be known as the premier that was attacking Canadian jobs. Not good tactics. Not good tactics. But he's stubborn. I'm assuming somebody, because I don't think he's surrounded by total idiots, somebody probably went to him and said, listen, this is not going to work well. They could just hold out and then pay whatever money to run ads in Ontario, attacking you, Doug Ford's, how you are hurting Canadian job, how Diageo is a manufacturer that has brought work into Canada, that believes in the Canadian worker. How is that going to look? This is not a good strategy. But good old Doug Ford, he knows better. So let's see what happens. I could be wrong, but this doesn't look good, especially if they do advertisements letting people know where these products that are being taken off these shelves are made. Let's see how Doug Ford gets out of this one. Maybe he'll just do another scandal and people will forget about it. Anyways, guys, that's it for me. Take care. We'll talk later.